Commander, the upgrades for Yuan are complete. It's ready to start underwater mining. Great. Let's send the Yuan robots over. Commander, Yuan's production speed is a bit slow and seems to be falling behind. I suggest expanding the production lines so that we can keep up when we mine in other planets in the future. Then go ahead. You don't have to tell me every time you do things like this. After Zhao Yu finished speaking, he noticed that Uncle De seemed hesitant to speak and asked, "Do you have something else to say?" "Yes." Uncle De spoke up. "With Yuan's mining efficiency, if we avoid humans, it can produce resources worth up to 100 million Blue Moon dollars per day. What if we don't avoid humans? Then it can produce resources worth up to 300 million Blue Moon dollars per day." Zhao Yu pondered for a moment and said, "Let's not avoid them. It was the Earth Federation that wants us to keep a low profile, but we are not going to follow through if keeping a low profile affects our productivity." Uncle De added, "If that's the case, it might not sit well with Earth. After all, we're mining on their planet." "What are you talking about? I was born on Earth too. Earth is also my planet. We're not invading another planet, no?" Zhao Yu smiled and said casually, "Besides, the sort of mining we are doing is the type that they can't do. It's all tens of thousands of meters below sea level. We're not taking over any existing minefields." Uncle De breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. "Then I'll expand the production of Yuan and speed up the mining efficiency as soon as possible." Zhao Yu nodded and looked at the time. "It's almost time to hand over the nuclear fusion power plant. I should head to Earth. Finally, I'll have enough technology points for the 10,000 points." Breaking news. Blue Moon Technology Company is building a controllable nuclear fusion power plant in the Shanghai. As a result, the entire Great Xia will no longer face energy shortages. The Qiuqiu Group announced a $100 billion investment to enter the battery industry. Nuclear fusion power will completely change the human energy structure, but the challenge now is how to store and use electricity conveniently. However, it is certain that whoever solves this problem will become the giant of the next era. The internet was flooded with news about nuclear fusion power plants. People all over the world were surprised. They never expected Blue Moon Technology Company to be so powerful, capable of developing nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion? Could it be a scam? It's possible. The nuclear fusion project has immense prospects, and any project related to it can easily secure funding. It's not impossible for Blue Moon to take risks as well. No, the news says that Blue Moon Technology Company is about to build a nuclear fusion power plant. This is not a concept, nor is it ambiguous wording. It's terrifying. How many scientists does Blue Moon Technology Company have? It's not about the scientists. I heard a few days ago that Jade Rabbit 9 landed on the moon and discovered alien relics. This technology is brought back from the moon by our Great Xia. I've heard about that too. Otherwise, why would Blue Moon Technology Company's super factory be built in Chang'an? And why would no one object? Skynet? Colonel Chu was taken aback and instinctively felt that there was something fishy about this. "Mr. Zhao, the matter of Skynet involves the entire world and is too significant. I can't make the decision alone. Can you allow us to have a meeting and discuss it before giving you an answer?" "That's fine." Zhao Yu nodded and continued. "Then let's make a trade for a chip that can be installed in phones, TVs, cars, computers, and any electronic devices. As long as it's an electronic device, the chip can be installed." Chips. Colonel Chu thought for a moment and agreed with a nod. It was just a chip, nothing much. Besides, he could also see how advanced the alien chip technology was. As for the global coverage of signals, once the Skynet was established, he didn't care. What really worried him was network security. If Skynet was installed, there would be no privacy for humanity. For a single chip, Zhao Yu naturally didn't ask for a high price. Just a few hundred Blue Moon dollar worth of resources would do. As soon as the chip was handed over to Colonel Chu, he received 500 technology points. Zhao Yu curiously asked, "Have you gathered all the resources in the Blue Moon New District?" "Yes, we urgently mobilized global efforts, and within 3 days, we managed to gather all the resources." Colonel Chu also had some concerns. The existing resources were running out, and the newly mined resources alone couldn't keep up with the demand. "All right, let's go to the Shanghai first and deliver the nuclear power plant." The group stood up and boarded the spaceship to head to the Shanghai. The nuclear power plant was said to be constructed in the Shanghai, but in reality, it was located 50 kilometers away from the city center, covering an area of 5,400 acres. A total of 10 trillion kilowatt generating units were built, with an annual cumulative power output of 100 trillion kilowatts. Once completed, it would meet the total electricity demand of nearly 100 countries, including Great Xia. When Zhao Yu arrived at the site of the nuclear power plant, tens of thousands of people had already gathered, including various experts and scholars. People looked at Zhao Yu with curiosity. Although they had heard of him, it was their first time seeing him in person. I heard that Zhao Yu was originally from Greater Xia and was taken away by aliens for training 5 years ago. Now, he has become the representative for the alien negotiations with Earth. But Zhao Yu paid no attention to these rumors. He directly led Colonel Chu into the interior of the nuclear power plant to proceed with the handover and acceptance work. Seeing this, Colonel Chu quickly called some renowned scientists from the scientific community to accompany them. Although the fusion power plant was built by aliens, it still needed to be evaluated by these experts to determine if it was feasible. Many of the experts present had experience in participating in the construction of nuclear fission power plants. As they entered the nuclear power plant, someone exclaimed and pointed at a device in shock. Could this be the alpha particle confinement device? How is this possible? Have you solved the problem of the ash removal property of alpha particles? Zhao Yu glanced at the person but did not say much. After all, he was not knowledgeable about these matters, as the construction of the nuclear power plant was handled by mechanical engineers. As they proceeded, the accompanying experts marveled at the equipment, making Colonel Chu feel a bit embarrassed. It seems that this set of equipment has solved the major disruption of plasma. Look at this set. It uses some unknown material and has solved the problem of low activation materials. As they hurriedly toured the facility, Zhao Yu brought everyone to the side of the generating units and said, "Let's test the power output first." All right. The experts were already so overwhelmed by what they were seeing that they could hardly tell which way was up. At this moment, their only thought was to confirm whether this nuclear power plant could really generate electricity. Zhao Yu turned to a robot and nodded at it. In the next second, the command was given and transmitted to various units. The nuclear power plant officially started its operation. Humdash. With a loud noise, the entire nuclear power plant started functioning. The values inside the generating units rapidly soared. It's exploding. It's exploding. An expert who worked at Earth's largest nuclear fission power plant looked shocked. It has already exceeded twice as much, 3 times as much, 10 times as much, 50 times as much, 100 times as much. Amidst the exclaims of the experts, the power output temporarily stabilized and finally settled at 250 times the initial value. A single fusion power plant actually releases 250 times the energy of Earth's largest nuclear fission power plant. There are only a little over 400 nuclear fission power plants globally, but this one alone is equivalent to the total power output of 300 nuclear fission power plants. What's most terrifying is that this fusion power plant doesn't produce nuclear waste, has no nuclear radiation, and there's no risk of a nuclear leak. That's right. I just read about it. The fusion power plant uses the isotopes deuterium and tritium as fuel. Once the fuel is depleted, the fusion reaction will cease. Its safety is over 1,000 times higher than nuclear fission power plants. No. What I find most terrifying is that this fusion power plant only requires seawater as raw material. It's practically an inexhaustible resource. Watching the somewhat ecstatic experts, Colonel Chu also felt a surge of excitement. The completion of this nuclear power plant meant that the energy crisis would be resolved. Humans would no longer lack energy and wouldn't have to fight each other to the death for petroleum and other chemical fuels. 10,000 technology points. Zhao Yu rubbed his hands as he was feeling excited. It was his first time spending such a large amount of 10,000 technology points at once. Entering the core control room of the base, he searched for the fusion-related technology. Do you want to spend 10,000 technology points to upgrade to the 3rd generation fusion? The prompt asked.
Yes.
Base, level 1. Experience, 62. 800 out of 100. 000. Technology points, 8. Increases by 1 point per hour. Ignoring the experience increase notification, Zhao Yu quickly opened the fusion technology interface. He discovered that the current level was already the 3rd generation of fusion, and there were no more upgrade buttons available. I wonder if there will be a 4th generation fusion or new technologies when the base reaches level 2, Zhao Yu muttered, quickly checking the changes after upgrading the fusion. Soon, he found 3 newly appeared exchangeable technologies. Hall Thruster, a high-end propulsion system that combines electromagnetic and fusion technologies. Description: it can create an electromagnetic field at the rear of a spacecraft, utilizing the energy released from fusion to accelerate and form a plasma jet for propulsion. Cost: 1,000 technology points. So, this is the technology that Uncle De predicted would enhance the power after upgrading to the 3rd generation of fusion? It's actually a combination of electromagnetic and fusion technologies. Zhao Yu clicked on the spaceship list and found the U-shaped spaceship, noticing that it had indeed changed. U-shaped spaceship, a conventional warship capable of equipping a Hall thruster, suitable for multi-purpose modifications. Zhao Yu suddenly realized why the U-shaped spaceship had both nuclear and magnetic propulsion but lacked speed. Apparently, his fusion technology wasn't sufficient to unleash the ultimate form of the spacecraft. He quickly checked the details of the Hall thruster. The more he read, the wider Zhao Yu's smile became. This Hall thruster is amazing. According to the description, a spaceship equipped with the Hall thruster could reach a conventional speed of 500 Mach, equivalent to around 600,000 kilometers per hour or 14.4 million kilometers per day. This meant that the closest planet, Mercury, would only take 10 days for a round trip. Mars, currently 120 million kilometers away from Earth, would take approximately 20 days for a round trip. 1 plus 1 is indeed greater than 2. The combination of these 2 fully upgraded technologies has increased the speed by so many times. Zhao Yu beamed with joy. The appearance of the Hall thruster meant that he could divert his attention from Earth and start mining on nearby planets. What surprised him even more was that the Hall thruster was not limited to a conventional speed of 500 Mach. It could also be installed on super-small special warships, reaching instantaneous speeds of up to 1,000 Mach. However, the endurance was limited, requiring maintenance after just 1 hour of continuous use. Even so, it was impressive. At the very least, the travel time to and from Earth had been significantly shortened. It would only take 20 minutes to fly from the Moon to Earth. Now, the only problem is the lack of technology points. Zhao Yu was feeling a bit overwhelmed. He had traded all the tradable life-related technologies, and the only option left was the Skynet that could be exchanged for 500 technology points. Should I consider trading some weapons with Earth? Zhao Yu shook his head, deciding to discuss it with Decoding before making a decision. He then turned his attention to the second newly added exchangeable technology, Mothership, a large warship providing docking and maintenance facilities for long-range fleet operations. Cost: 1,000 technology points. Looking at the description, it seemed ordinary and average. It could also equip the Hall thruster for propulsion without sacrificing speed, but it consumed a considerable amount of fuel. Zhao Yu examined the detailed data and furrowed his eyebrows slightly after going through it. It seems the mothership isn't as good as I thought. Although it can carry various types of weapons, there doesn't seem to be any breakthroughs. However, the mothership can accommodate repair equipment for all damaged spaceships. The most important thing is its enormous size, reaching a length of 1,000 kilometers. It can easily accommodate millions of people. If one was to look at the description, the mothership was indeed an essential asset for long-distance operations. It was capable of carrying a wide variety of supplies, almost like carrying a small asteroid with it. 1,000 technology points may not be much, but there's no immediate need for it. Currently, Zhao Yu didn't have a requirement for long-distance travel. He could establish a space base for supplies, along with various supply and transport ships as supplements, which would suffice. Without lingering too much on the mothership, Zhao Yu turned his attention to the next newly added technology. Artificial sun can alter the inhospitable environment of remote planets. Cost: 1,000 technology points. Artificial sun? A look of surprise appeared on Zhao Yu's face as he read the description. He realized that it didn't seem useful to him at the moment. If there's no threat from the extraterrestrial fleet after a month, this artificial sun would be great. It can transform remote planetary areas for colonization. There were still many life-related technologies that Zhao Yu hadn't acquired. If it became safe in the future, he could acquire all of them and engage in a wave of colonization. After completing the upgrades and understanding the situation of the 3 new technologies, Zhao Yu looked at the spaceship list again. Besides the disc-shaped spaceship, almost all other types of ships could be equipped with the Hall thruster. The disc-shaped spaceship could also be modified, but after the modification, its stealth capability would greatly decrease, almost losing its original function. Aside from the significant enhancement in power systems, Zhao Yu also noticed a substantial improvement in weapons and defense products related to nuclear fusion. For example, the Star Destroyer cannon, which previously was only in its first generation, could pulverize small asteroids with a diameter of 100 kilometers. Now, with the option of upgrading available, it could potentially destroy small asteroids with a diameter of 500 kilometers. In comparison, its power had increased 5-fold. Other systems like the laser defense system were also greatly strengthened, with improved endurance and maximum defense power. Furthermore, the third-generation fusion provided upgraded energy supply. The first-generation fusion power plants installed on Earth could meet the daily power needs of over 100 countries and regions on the planet. However, with the current third-generation fusion power plants, they could supply the power demands of 10 existing Earth. Upgrading fusion was the key to Zhao Yu's advancement. In a normal civilization, the biggest role of upgraded fusion would be to provide energy for large-scale energy-consuming scientific research. In the case of Earth, they had always wanted to conduct large-scale research in the field of particles and quantum, but limited by energy, devices like particle colliders and proton colliders had to be operated at the lowest power. Even so, the annual energy expenditure was astronomical. Leaving the core control room, Zhao Yu explained the newly acquired technologies to Uncle De. Uncle De, apart from Skynet, we still need 500 technology points to quickly construct the Hall thruster. What other areas do you think we can squeeze for points? After pondering for a moment, Uncle De spoke, Commander, since we will absolutely not sell any of our weapons under any circumstances, it seems that the only option we have is to sell the Xiaotian robots. Of course, we can sell just the first-generation models. This way, even if the Earthlings get their hands on it, they won't be able to interfere with our underwater mining operations. After carefully considering it, Zhao Yu nodded. That seems to be the only option. Sister Xia, what are we doing? Zhang Tao asked curiously in his spacesuit. Right now, they were at the moon base. We are currently doing backup work. We are responsible for talking the severely worn-out and malfunctioning robots to the repair room. Zhang Yixia was saying all this with her face blushing. Just a moment ago, Zhang Tao had said a bunch of cheesy romantic lines that went beyond the script, but fortunately, she reacted appropriately and gave a corresponding response. Nailed it. Zhang Tao was secretly glad that his lines worked. Sister Xia, my employee level is Li. What level are you? I am H3. If I perform well, I have a chance to be promoted to GI and become a supervisor, Zhang Yixia replied. Zhang Tao suddenly realized and asked, what level was the previous supervisor, Zhu? You mean Supervisor Zhu? He was G3 level. I met a security supervisor namely at the spaceport. Do you know his level? Supervisor Li has a pretty high rank. I heard he is D3 level. Upon hearing this, Zhang Tao couldn't help but become curious. And what about Zhao Yu, who is responsible for communicating with Earth? Supervisor Zhao seems to be D level, Zhang Yixia replied uncertainly. Zhang Tao clenched his fists. He must perform well and upgrade to D level as soon as possible. Then, he might have a chance to replace Zhao Yu and communicate with Earth. Uncle De, how are the 88 people captured by Xiaotian doing now? Not much progress, Uncle De shook his head. After they arrived, they either sat together playing games all day or hid alone in their rooms, rehearsing human reproduction rituals using projection touch watches. Zhao Yu looked at the surveillance video. In the park, some people were playing basketball, some were playing soccer, and some were swimming. Laughter and joy filled the air. Uncle De thought for a moment and said, compared to them, I've learned a little something from Zhang Tao. Zhao Yu became interested and asked curiously, "What did you learn?" "Commander, the luckiest thing in my life is meeting you. 1,000 words cannot express how much I love you. No mountains or rivers can stop my crazy love for you." "Stop." Zhao Yu's mouth twitched, and he said, "Did you learn this from Zhang Tao?"
Yes.
Uncle Da nodded and said, "Zhang Tao said he loves Zhang Yixia. True or not, he always has to show his love. He's saying a lot of things that make him genuinely seem like he loves her." "Commander, I love you too." "I know." Zhao Yu felt speechless and said directly, "Don't say such things randomly in the future, and don't imitate what Zhang Tao says." After speaking, he walked away directly, feeling a lot of goosebumps. Watching Zhao Yu's back, Uncle Da was puzzled. Was there something wrong with that Zhang Tao was saying? "Uncle San, without GPS signals, will we be unable to return?" "Don't be afraid. Back in the day, I went to set sail with just a compass." At sea, a fishing boat was crossing the strait, intending to fish near the island on the other side. Halfway through, there was a loud thud, and the entire boat seemed to have hit something, causing the uncle and nephew to stumble and fall. "What's wrong?" They got up and saw a transparent barrier in front of them. With that collision, ripples spread across the surface. "What is this?" The two looked at each other, full of astonishment. The nephew was a little scared, standing still in place. The uncle swallowed his saliva, suppressed his fear, and walked forward, reaching out to touch the ripple. Iron. Based on the touch, it seemed they had hit a ship, but there was a ripple in front of them, and behind it was just the sea. Thump, thump. The uncle knocked on the ripple, feeling somewhat confused. "What is this?" Behind him, the nephew looked up in the direction the ripples spread and was shocked to find that the ripples extended hundreds of meters into the sky. "Uncle San, should we leave?" The uncle also felt something was amiss and didn't dare to linger. He quickly steered the boat backward. After sailing a distance, the nephew suddenly called out in fear, "Uncle San, look quickly." The uncle turned his head and saw that the ripple they had collided with had revealed a massive object. "Is it a ship?" "A spaceship." As if in response to their voices, the spaceship suddenly trembled. Waves surged, and the two hurriedly held onto the boat's side, nervously observing the situation in front of them. Hiss! At that moment, the surface of the water suddenly bubbled, accompanied by a thick smoke. Soon after, the sea parted, and the spaceship in front slowly ascended. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle dash. Electric currents flickered across the surface of the spaceship. Then, right before their eyes, it gradually turned transparent and disappeared. "It's an alien spaceship." "Run." The uncle and nephew didn't care about fishing anymore and quickly maneuvered the fishing boat to head back. At a base in Xiadu, Senator Chu, nearly 100 people have reported seeing an alien spaceship near the Xiaxi region. Some people in remote mountain areas have also claimed to see an alien spaceship. Upon hearing the reports from his subordinates, Colonel Chu furrowed his brow. Are they aliens from the moon? Most likely. With the entire planet blocked, it should be very hard for anyone else to come in with a spaceship. Colonel Chu was puzzled. What do they want? I don't know. Realizing that no one understood, Colonel Chu thought for a moment and ordered, "Spread the word. Block this information and monitor closely. Don't let any mention of it slip through on the entire internet. If related keywords appear, block and delete them all. What if people mention it in a sci-fi novel? Do you want it censored? Delete it too. Best be cautious." "Yes, sir." With the command issued, Colonel Chu hastily returned to the underground base. He informed them of the situation. What do they want?
No idea.
Could it be that they're installing some kind of device on Earth? Like what? Maybe surveillance or some kind of weapon? After much discussion, they couldn't come to a conclusion. Senator Zhou thought for a moment and suggested, "Colonel Chu, why don't you ask Zhao Yu next time you see him?" "Good idea." Colonel Chu nodded and asked, "And what about the results from the think tank regarding Skynet?" Senator Zhou sighed and shook his head. "We have no way to stop them. So, should we let them continue installing it?" Han Xian endured great humiliation, biding his time without retaliating. That's how he became a king. Gojian, as the king of Yu, was subjugated by the king of Wu. He also endured great humiliation by feeding horses and tasting feces. Only then did he get the chance to destroy Wu and seek revenge. Now, our situation is remarkably similar. Let's endure silently, lying low, and wait for the right moment. One day, we will get these aliens out of our territory. Whilst holding a sense of frustration about the aliens, Colonel Chu returned to Earth. As soon as he emerged, a subordinate came to report the situation. Colonel Chu, have you been online today? What's the matter? The subordinate brought a network cable, plugged it into a laptop, and showed him the selected comments. 2 robot reservations, a total of 1.1 million units. I would prepared half an hour in advance each time, but still couldn't get one. Same here. 13 people in my family tried at the same time, but none of us got one. Haha, in our school's large group of nearly 20,000 people, not a single person got one. Maybe this robot reservation is just for show. No, I have a classmate who got one. He has won first prize in essay contest from primary school to high school. Oh, his name is Yuan. I have a rich classmate who got one too. I heard he went out his way to drive to Shadu, just so he could get to know the wealthy people there. As Colonel Chu read these comments, his eyebrows slightly furrowed, and he asked, did someone use underhanded methods to get robots?
No.
The subordinate denied it immediately and said seriously, this is a matter of great importance. We have exclusive spots, and there's absolutely no such thing. Even I didn't get one. Maybe someone just got lucky. When will the 3rd batch of robots be delivered? The subordinate looked worried and said, Sir, the Chang'an factory has built a lot of robots, but we lack the resources to make the trade with Blue Moon dollars. Lack of equivalent resources.
Colonel Chu muttered.
Although the production line for these robots is in Great Xia, every sale requires them to exchange resources for Blue Moon dollars with Zhao Yu side in advance, and then use the Blue Moon dollars to purchase the robots. Suddenly, he seemed to have figured something out. His eyes brightened, and he patted his subordinate's shoulder, praising, well done. After saying that, he hurriedly went downstairs. The subordinate looked puzzled, not understanding what he had done to earn the leader's appreciation. In the underground base, the members of parliament were about to disperse when Colonel Chu suddenly called them back. Is there something wrong? There is. Colonel Chu smiled and said, I've figured out a way to refuse Zhao Yu's construction of Skynet. What? Everyone was shocked and quickly asked for details. In response, Member Zhou spoke up, let's go back to the conference room first. Soon, the members of parliament, along with the members of the think tank, returned to the conference room. Colonel Chu, what solution have you come up with? Tell us quickly, impatiently asked Member Sun. Colonel Chu smiled slightly and said, do you know what I saw when I just went online? Colonel Chu, please don't keep us in suspense. Speak directly. I can't handle any more surprises at my age, one member said helplessly. Colonel Chu nodded and didn't waste any more time. He said, there are many comments online about people not being able to get the robots. I asked around, and it's not that the production at the Chang'an factory is insufficient. On the contrary, they have built many robots, but they are all sitting in the warehouse and can't be sold. They can't be sold? Member Zhou was taken aback for a moment and realized the key point. He exclaimed, you mean Blue Moon dollar? Exactly. Colonel Chu laughed and said, our initial deal with Zhao Yu was to exchange resources for their Blue Moon coins and then use the Blue Moon coins to purchase their products. Now, our Earth's reserve of resources is almost empty, mainly due to the fusion power plant, which took away 2 billion Blue Moon dollars worth of resources at once, leaving many reserves completely drained. That Skynet, even if it's not as good as the Sky Curtain and the laser defense system around the planet, the price is definitely not low. So, we can't afford it. Everyone was delighted. In this case, it's not that we don't want to buy it, but we simply can't afford it. One wise member spoke up, to be safe, I think we can continue to expand the orders for robots, as well as the orders for maglev buses. In any case, let's owe tens of billions of Blue Moon dollars first. Yes, and the light ladder. Originally, we didn't want to push forward with that project, but now it can be put on the agenda. Let's promote it vigorously and have major companies place orders directly. Also, the netizens who couldn't get the robots seem quite agitated. We can amplify their voices. Even if Xiaoyu wants us to prioritize buying his Sky we can use the netizens' opinions as an argument. That's right. It's not that we don't want to buy it, but we lack resources. Moreover, the public is going crazy over the robots, and we have no choice but to prioritize supplying the robots. Everyone brainstormed, and a series of measures were quickly devised. Colonel Chu, thanks to you this time. Colonel Chu smiled and said, "It's nothing. I just discovered it a little earlier than you did. When you all go online, you'll naturally see these things. Good. We can't delay. Let's quickly implement the measures and get prepared before Xiaoyu arrives." Everyone left as soon as their tasks were assigned. Blue Moon Technology. 3 flagship products, shocking the world. Robotic manufacturing, replacing human labor. Interest-free loans, a cause for nationwide celebration. Many heartwarming stories about people trying to get their hands on robots. On the internet, there was an endless discussion about people not being able to secure a reservation for the robots. Many netizens even wrote humorous poems to mock the situation. This time, the fire spread with the wind, and the wind fueled the fire, turning it into a nationwide frenzy. At the same time, unbeknownst to the netizens, a bidding event with thousands of attendees was taking place. Representatives from various companies across Great Xia sat in the audience, while Colonel Chu stood on the stage. "I'm a straightforward person. I don't like beating around the bush, so let's get straight to the point. You've all seen the prospects of the maglev bus project. In recent days, over 30,000 companies have inquired about related investment projects. After careful consideration, we have decided to allow private funds to enter the market, benefiting the people. There are no restrictions on participation. All companies, big and small, are welcome to join." Although he said that, the audience did not show much excitement. Those who were present here were not fools. How could such a stroke of good fortune fall into their laps? Seeing this, Colonel Chu continued, "Of course, due to production capacity constraints, there may be some delays in the delivery of the maglev buses." Upon hearing this, the audience finally got excited and started clamoring to place their orders. Colonel Chu wasted no time and immediately dispatched tens of thousands of prepared staff members to provide one-on-one service and sign contracts on the spot. In just 1 hour, nearly 800,000 contracts for maglev buses were signed. A smile appeared on Colonel Chu's face. 800,000 buses equated to $8 billion Blue Moon dollars. However, at present, Earth did not have $8 billion Blue Moon dollars worth of resources. Even if they did, if the companies had already paid the money, wouldn't they be given priority in receiving the products? On the internet, there was an endless discussion about the hidden agenda behind pre-ordered robots, and it became the hottest topic. Finally, the Earth Federation issued an announcement. Due to the enthusiasm of netizens for robots, we are canceling the reservation system. We are introducing an open pre-sale system without any restrictions on the number of orders, ensuring that everyone can participate and benefit. Within 1 year, each person can purchase 1 robot, and the robots will be delivered based on the order of signing the contract. Before the robots are delivered, the loan repayments will be temporarily suspended. This announcement caught the attention of the entire planet. Within a short span of half a day, 1 billion people signed purchase contracts and eagerly awaited the delivery of the robots. In Xia City base, Senator Chu, someone overseas, has captured clear pictures and videos of the spacecraft. Colonel Chu took the computer and saw that the spacecraft was identical to the warships they had seen before. It seems to be a transport ship. Why would they send so many transport ships to Earth? Senator Chu, take a look at this. Senator Zhou handed over another photo. Senator Chu looked at it and saw an oval-shaped device emerging from the depths of the sea, drilling towards the bottom of the transport ship. This is a resource collection machine that appeared on the moon. Colonel Chu was shocked. Could it be that they sent so many warships and resource collection machines to steal resources from Earth? Senator Zhou nodded. One of our submarines tracked a mining device. It was found to have dived into the seabed. As you know, we humans are not capable of mining deep in the ocean. How could they do such a thing? Colonel Chu was astonished. The mighty extraterrestrial civilization was actually stealing resources from their Earth. Senator Zhou shook his head and sighed. We are weaker than them, and that's why it's like this. The good news is that they are at least restrained and going to uninhabited areas. Do we have any way to stop them?
Non.
Senator Zhou shook his head. The think tank has analyzed it. For now, the best course of action is to pretend we haven't seen anything and turn a blind eye. How infuriating. Colonel Chu was very frustrated. He couldn't help but to sigh at how powerless the humans were. I guess we can only pretend we didn't see them. Well, you know about this matter. Now, let's discuss the issue of preventing the aliens from building the Skynet. The two of them moved to the conference room, which was already filled with people. A member of parliament with a slight smile on his face spoke up when everyone was present. Since everyone is here, let's get started. Senator Sun nodded and spoke first. Let me talk about the robot pre-sale. As of now, the number of people who have signed contracts to purchase robots has exceeded 1 billion. According to the trade agreement with the moon, we still need $30 billion Blue Moon dollars worth of resources to complete the orders. After he finished, Colonel Chu also stood up and said, let me talk about the situation of the maglev buses. Since they are for commercial use, there aren't many who qualify to participate. A total of 830,000 maglev buses have been ordered, which means we still need 830 million Blue Moon dollars worth of resources to complete the orders. Another member of parliament stood up. Regarding the light tweezers ladder, there aren't many orders, only 100,000 seats. When you add up all these products, we are still short of 30 billion Blue Moon dollars worth of resources. We have a debt, but the key now is how to persuade Zhao Yu to deliver these products first. Senator Zhou looked around and asked, does anyone have any ideas? A young sage in his 30s raised his hand. Chen Xiao, you go ahead. Chen Xiao stood up, eager to make a name for himself as a newly promoted sage. In the current situation, the moon aliens are strong, and our side is weak. Although the moon could easily destroy us, they have shown some courtesy by maintaining a semblance of equality due to the spaceship repair incident. It appears equal, but it is unequal in every aspect. We have made compromises on almost all our demands to the moon. Although this is decided by force, have any of you thought about one thing? Senator Zhou timely asked, what is it? Chen Xiao smiled lightly. Why does the moon want to maintain an appearance of equality? Everyone frowned and pondered. Colonel Chu thought for a moment and said, for the moon, forcefully enslaving us is not the best option. That's right. Chen Xiao nodded. Forceful enslavement would provoke our resistance and rebellion, which would be detrimental to technological advancement and spaceship repair. In the past few days, after I obtained the information, I have been analyzing the actions of the moon during this period. Before the analysis, let me state a premise, which is that the moon's intention or sole purpose is to repair their broken spaceship. Considering from the moon's perspective, I have come up with 3 strategies. One for the best situation, one for the worst situation, and one for in between. The moon's worst strategy is to forcibly enslave Earth, which means slowly advancing Earth's technology while facing resistance from the Earthlings. Obviously, this is not a good strategy for the aliens, as they might not even help Earth advance in their technology. Perhaps all the fighting might just force them to be stuck on the moon forever. This is the worst strategy for them, and the fact that the moon has not chosen it for more than 5 years proves that they won't resort to it unless it's absolutely necessary. A better strategy is to interact with us the way they are doing now, maintaining a certain level of equality on the surface, using calculated friendliness to confuse us, thus promoting technology and science to repair the spaceship and return to their home planet. Until they achieve their goal, we have a certain degree of autonomy, just like the current situation. The moon is merely exchanging resources with us for their technology products without interfering in our internal affairs. But this strategy also has risks for them. If we humans happen to learn about their true intentions and the possibility of them destroying Earth, in that case, we humans will pretend to be obedient to the aliens and will secretly slow down the progress of our technological advances, because if we are progressing too fast, these aliens might just destroy us as soon as they could leave the moon. I even wondered, could Zhao Yu intentionally reveal to us the Dark Forest Law, in order to encourage us to develop technology in secret and not fully trust the aliens? This statement caused a commotion in the room. No one had considered this possibility before. They all assumed that Zhao Yu had been completely brainwashed to become a representative of the aliens. But now, it seemed to make sense. Otherwise, there was no reason for Zhao Yu to inform them about the Dark Forest Law. If it were another alien negotiating with them, they would surely stabilize the situation and present a false image of a harmonious universe. Before the crowd could further diverge in their thinking, Chun Xiao continued, "I've been thinking. Since the moon has been in the solar system for 5 years, why did they never reveal themselves until the White Rabbit 9 landed on the moon?" Colonel Chu interjected, "We've analyzed this situation before. After the moon crashed, they were repairing their spaceship and only recently made some progress." "That makes sense." Chun Xiao nodded and continued, "But have any of you considered that the moon might have regained some power even before these 5 years? This is where I get to the best strategy that they have. After investigating Earth, the moon decided to secretly promote the development of science and technology. That's why they abducted a group of Earth people 5 years ago. Their goal is to release them at the right time and quietly foster technological advancement and scientific progress. This way, there would be no need for the middle strategy of pretending to cooperate while opposing us in secret. During these 5 years, they should have been researching the direction and technology to promote scientific development, preparing to deliver them to Zhao Yu and others for their private development on Earth. Unfortunately, the landing of the White Rabbit 9 disrupted their best strategy, forcing them to execute the middle strategy of engaging with us openly and advancing scientific development. Until they achieve their goal, they have no reason to directly shift from the middle strategy to the lower strategy. That would be too radical. If the moon could endure for 5 years, they can endure much longer. At this point, Senator Sun interjected, "Have you strayed from the topic? We are here to discuss how to prevent the aliens from installing Skynet." Chun Xiao nodded, acknowledging the interruption, and smiled. "What I mean is, when Colonel Chu negotiates with Zhao Yu about Skynet, as long as we openly consider the situation from their perspective, for their own good, they won't have a reason to refuse."
Colonel Chu pondait.
After listening to Chen Xiao, he was starting to have some ideas of how to talk to Zhao Yu the next time he meets up with him. "Commander, the cost of deploying the Skynet system is pretty low. In order to quickly recover technology points, you can lower the price." "I know. By the way, find an opportunity to sell the Shoutian as well?" Zhao Yu nodded. He was only 1,000 technology points away from upgrading the Hall thruster. As for the Skynet system, he didn't really care too much about it. Even if he gave it away for free to Earth, it wouldn't matter. "I have arrived. We can talk about the rest later?" "Good." Zhao Yu controlled the spaceship and slowly descended towards Earth. Upon reaching the base in Shadu, Zhao Yu was invited to the reception room. It didn't take long before Colonel Chu walked out from the base. "Mr. Zhao, you're here." Before Zhao Yu could say much, Colonel Chu's face lit up with joy. "Mr. Zhao, I have good news for you." "Good news?" Zhao Yu was taken aback for a moment and curiously asked, "What news?" "The number of robots sold by our Blue Moon factory has exceeded 200 million units, equivalent to 600 billion in Blue Moon currency." 600 billion? Zhao Yu was greatly surprised. The first defense line only required about 10.9 billion Blue Moon currency resources. How could they sell so many robots? That's right. In addition to robots, we've also received numerous orders for maglev buses and light scissors elevators. Colonel Chu spoke hesitantly and said, "However, we have a problem now that is difficult to solve." "What problem?" 600 billion. Even if the Shoutian upgraded once and went all out to collect resources, it would still take over 100 days. Our Earth's reserves of resources are running low, and most of them have not been excavated yet. Furthermore, while we were busy making orders, we didn't consider the shortage of resources, and there are some complaints among the public about not being able to obtain robots. We also want the Skynet system you mentioned, but now it seems that the trade may be temporarily impossible. With so many orders for robots, delaying deliveries might affect future sales." Colonel Chu continued incessantly, following the train of thought of the think tank. 3 sentences summarized the current situation. Insufficient resources, priority supply to robots, and so on. In his opinion, since the aliens wanted to have a friendly relationship with the humans, the deployment of the Skynet system would likely be delayed. Little did he know that after pondering for a moment, Zhao Yu spoke, "The resource issue is easy to solve. During our initial trade, we agreed on cash on delivery. At that time, both parties didn't know each other well. Now that our cooperation is so close, we can be more lenient. How about this? I can extend a credit limit of 100 billion to you. You can slowly repay the resources without any rush."
Ah?
Colonel Chu was taken aback. The aliens actually wanted to offer them credit. But 100 billion. Mr. Zhao, we are afraid we won't be able to repay it in a short time. In all our history, Earth has only accumulated around 30 billion Blue Moon dollars worth of resources through mining and excavation. 100 billion might be. Don't worry, I believe you won't default on the payment, Zhao Yu said with a smile. Currently, the mining output of the Xiaotian was approximately 300 million Blue Moon dollars worth of resources per day. If Earth also started full-scale mining, he would have plenty of resources each day. While Colonel Chu was contemplating whether to accept the 100 billion credit, Zhao Yu's next words surprised him. In addition, it seems that your mining efficiency is not good. I plan to sell you a special mining machine. As he spoke, Zhao Yu waved his hand, and a first-generation Xiaotian walked in. What is this? Colonel Chu looked at the familiar machine in front of him and quickly realized that it was the resource collection machine that had appeared on the moon before. Are you willing to sell this to us? Of course, in business, we should always help our partners, Zhao Yu smiled. Improving your mining efficiency will also benefit our trade. He continued, furthermore, we have brought the Skynet system with us. This time, we can install it all at once. Mr. Zhao, we may not be able to afford it now. No problem. With so many robot orders, it's enough for me to profit. As for the Skynet system, just consider it as a token of our goodwill. We're giving it to you. But we don't want it. Colonel Chu cursed in his mind, but at the moment, he couldn't find a reason to refuse. After all, in order to reject the installing of the Skynet system, they had to use shortage of resources as an excuse. Now, Zhao Yu delivered the goods first and offered a machine that would increase mining efficiency. Mr. Zhao, I know you are short on resources right now. How about this? We'll sell the Skynet system for about 100 Blue Moon dollars worth of resources, and the first Xiaotian as another 100 Blue Moon currency equivalent resources. You can use the credit limit to buy as many Xiaotians as you want. Colonel Chu reluctantly had to agree. They were weak, and even refusing wasn't something they dared to do openly. Then let's proceed with the transaction now, Senator Chu. Thank you very much for the robot order worth 600 billion Blue Moon currency equivalent resources. The transaction was completed. Zhao Yu also received 1,000 technology points. He didn't stay long and hurriedly left the reception room. Just as he was about to board the spaceship, a middle-aged man walked out and called out. Turning around, it was a man who had appeared beside him before when Zhang Yuxia and Lu Ning were in contact. He seemed to be from the aerospace department. Is there something? Sorry to bother you, Mr. Zhao. Chief Engineer Yang looked anxious. After hesitating for a moment, he spoke, I have a friend named Zhang Tao who became infatuated with the wrong person. He betrayed Earth and went to the moon some time ago. I wonder if he is okay? Zhang Tao. Zhao Yu looked at Chief Engineer Yang for a moment and casually said, he's doing great. He is now only level employee at the base and gets to work with the person he likes every day. He couldn't be happier. As long as he's alive, that's good. Thank you, sir. Chief Engineer Yang breathed a sigh of relief. This inquiry seemed like a personal matter for him, but in fact, it was a task arranged by the base to find out about Zhang Tao's whereabouts. Zhao Yu nodded and, seeing that he had nothing else to say, he directly boarded the spaceship. Colonel Chu returned to the underground base with a sense of frustration and informed everyone about the situation. The room fell into silence after hearing what he had to say. After a while, Senator Zhou spoke, well, let it be. Even if they deploy the Skynet system, it can only monitor the civilian network. We use a wired local area network internally. In fact, we don't need to worry so much. Chun Zhao's words caught everyone's attention. If they want to set up the Skynet system, let them. The terminals are still under our control. Chun Xiao smiled and pointed at the special mobile phone on the table, indicating the chip. Colonel Chu's eyes brightened. Right. To connect to the Skynet system, they need to install their provided chip in the phone, as long as our research progress is a bit slower. Meanwhile, at the moon base, Zhao Yu entered the control room and spent 1,000 technology points to exchange for the production line of the Hall thruster. After the upgrade, all newly built nuclear-powered spacecraft could directly install the Hall thruster. However, the already constructed ships needed some modifications. Leaving the control room, Zhao Yu discussed the modification with Uncle Da. Understood, Commander. I will arrange for the ships from various bases to come back one by one to replace the thrusters. Zhao Yu nodded and then asked, how many ships do we have now? About 100,000, and most of them are transport ships. How is the progress of the first defensive line? It's at 18% completion. According to the current mining efficiency of Xiaotian, it will take about 15 more days to complete. I used a portion of the resources you brought back last time to expand the production lines of various ships. Zhao Yu nodded and continued. Since the ships have been upgraded, have we made plans to send them to other planets?
Yes.
Uncle Da took out the plan and handed it to Zhao Yu while saying, there are 4 planets that are close to us: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Earth is the closest to us, with a daily output of approximately 300 million Blue Moon dollars equivalent resources. The rest, based on the current round-trip times, are 10 days for Mercury, 15 days for Venus, and 20 days for Mars. It's too troublesome to send Xiaotian back and forth, so my idea is to directly establish resource collection bases on these 3 planets, set up Xiaotian production lines with no limits on manufacturing, and conduct unlimited mining operations. Once we gather a portion of the resources, we can send them back using transport ships. There are no people on these 3 planets, so during the mining process, we don't need to worry as much as we do on Earth. We can mine freely. Zhao Yu nodded slightly and asked, what about Jupiter? How long would it take to reach there? Jupiter is still too far away. Even if we install the Hall thruster, it would still take 4 months for a round trip. The alien fleet will arrive in a month, and I'm afraid that even if we send ships there, they might be shot down before reaching the destination. In that case, let's forget about it. These 4 planets will be sufficient for the initial phase. Besides, we have plenty of resources on the moon. The 2 of them briefly discussed the alien fleet situation. However, they had limited intelligence at the moment, and they had already arranged the available weapons and defense facilities. Further contemplation was futile. Zhao Yu remembered young chief engineer he encountered before leaving and asked, how are Zhang Tao and the others doing? Commander, Zhang Tao seems to be doing something, but the other 88 people haven't done anything different yet. Uncle Da looked a bit puzzled. It seems like they just remain the same. They just eat, drink, and enjoy themselves every day. They don't fight or engage in romantic relationships. After a pause, he continued, Commander, I suspect that their closed environment is preventing such emotions. So, I think it would be better to let them out and have them work like Zhang Tao? Zhao Yu nodded slightly and said, apart from their employee level, set up a set of welfare systems according to the standards on Earth. Each level should enjoy certain benefits, and also, give them a monthly salary. What should the salary be, Commander? Just give them Blue Moon dollars. It's his own currency, after all. He could print as much as he wanted. After contemplating for a moment, Zhao Yu continued, how many resources would it take to build a living area capable of accommodating 1 million people? A few hundred Blue Moon dollars should be enough. Well then, build a living area capable of accommodating 1 million people. Commander, are you planning to build your own country?
No.
Zhao Yu shook his head and said, the alien fleet will arrive in a month. I'm concerned that Earth may be destroyed or cut off from contact, so I want to make some preparations in advance. The fastest way for him to acquire technology points now was through trading with the Earth people. If he traded with the Earth people living on the moon, he could also obtain technology points without much trouble. J. Prompt. The civilization population involved in trading with the mysterious merchant must not be less than 1 million. Just after Zhao Yu finished speaking, he received a prompt from the system, which made him somewhat delighted. This meant that in the system's view, As long as there were more than 1 million people from Earth living on the moon, they could trade with them. Uncle Da, expand the living area to a scale that can accommodate 5 million people and build all the facilities according to Earth standards. 5 million? Uncle Da was startled for a moment. A city with a population of 5 million would cost less than 10,000 Blue Moon dollars, which was relatively simple. For Earth, the biggest cost of constructing a city capable of accommodating 5 million people might be the labor cost. But for them, the greatest cost was only resources, as they had replaced labor with robots in terms of manpower. There were countless idle robots at the base now, and many of them had nothing to do, so they could be used to expand the living area. How long will it take to build the living area? It should be ready in 5 days. Zhao Yu nodded slightly. The next difficult part was how to obtain people from Earth. Thinking about this, he tried asking, if we merge with Earth, will it still trigger the mysterious merchant? Prompt: the mysterious merchant can only be triggered during trading with other civilizations. Zhao Yu was just testing, but he didn't expect that this method would indeed trigger a prompt from the system. So, even if we bring people from Earth, we can't merge them with us. We can only allow them to immigrate as Earth citizens. Commander, if we're bringing so many people here, what kind of work should we arrange for them? Uncle Da scratched his head, explaining, almost all the work in our base can be done by robots. Zhang Tao's work was specifically assigned to him. If he wanted to bring 1 million people over, he should at least give them jobs so they had something to do. Zhao Yu pondered for a moment and realized that the work robots couldn't replace was the kind that required creativity. Now that you mention it, I have an idea of who we should bring over as immigrants. Doctors, nurses, musicians, writers, artists, teachers. We can even turn the living area into an entertainment city. As Zhao Yu thought about it, he realized that he spent every day surrounded by machines. Having a place on the moon where he could eat, drink, and have some fun would be a nice way to relax during moments of annoyance. Of course, the most important thing was Zhao Yu's desire to experiment and see if he could trade weapons with the people in the new city, and whether he could obtain technology points from it. If successful, he could at least cash in 20,000 technology points. He didn't dare to trade weapons with Earth directly, fearing that they would study the related technology and eventually counter it through large-scale production. But on the moon, trading with a city under his control, populated by people from the humanities fields, wouldn't be a problem. Commander, with such a large-scale immigration, it might be difficult to hide our alien identities. If we can't hide it, then we won't. It was the Earth Federation that wanted us to hide our identity, anyways. It would cause social unrest, they told me. Zhao Yu shook his head, planning to take a few days of rest and then visit Earth again once everything was arranged properly to discuss the matter of immigration. 5 days later, on the far side of the moon, a city covering an area of 6,000 square kilometers emerged. Zhao Yu sat on the spacecraft, floating in midair, overlooking this steel jungle, feeling a sense of pride. This is the city one built. Yes, Commander. Please name this city. Let's call it Yuan City. The alien fleet was about to arrive, and the future was uncertain. Zhao Yu hoped to survive and protect the moon base from destruction. Yuan City, Commander. That's a great name. Deshu smiled and said, Commander, who should manage this city? He had some candidates in mind and planned to let the humanoids manage it. Zhao Yu shook his head and said, if we let the Earthlings manage the city, I'm afraid that it will make trading more difficult. What about the security of this city? Naturally, we will take care of that. Zhao Yu pondered for a moment and added, let's establish a laser defense system around the city. Commander, defense on both sides? Single-direction defense will suffice. For external threats? For internal ones. Zhao Yu smiled faintly. We already have a global laser defense system on the moon. If this system is destroyed, it means the enemy has won. Installing a laser defense system on this city would be useless. Oncle Da fell silent. The defense facilities at the base had been maximized, but if the alien technology level was too far ahead, no matter how hard they tried, it would be futile. Zhao Yu didn't dwell on it and boarded a small warship equipped with a hull thruster. He quickly left the moon. In just over 20 minutes, he arrived near Earth and docked the small warship at Blue Moon for refueling. Zhao Yu switched to another warship and was escorted by the fleet stationed at Blue Moon to the base in Shadu. Zhao Yu's return made the senators worry and suspect if he was back because of Skynet. Since the last incident, they had deliberately suspended the progress of placing chips in phones. Little did they know that Zhao Yu traded with Skynet just to obtain technology points. Whether Earth installed it or not was inconsequential to him. Hiring people? Colonel Chu had a puzzled look on his face, but he was clearly disturbed on the inside. The reason the Earth Federation wanted to keep the existence of aliens as a secret was for this. They didn't want the scientists and other elites working for the moon. In addition, the Federation had informed all top scientists about the aliens' intention to destroy Earth, both to prevent alien poaching and to motivate scientists to research scientific technology. Unexpectedly, they still came. Their ambitious agenda was now laid bare. Fortunately, the Federation had made preparations. Most of the scientists were firmly resolved and would rather die than yield.
Yes.
Zhao Yu nodded and said, "The moon is desolate, lacking vitality. We have built a city capable of accommodating 1 million people named Yuan City. We hope to attract some people from Earth to increase the liveliness." This, Colonel Chu hesitated for a moment and said, "This is a major issue. May first need to discuss it with others." "One understand. Go ahead." Zhao Yu nodded. They had already had multiple interactions, so he was familiar with the procedures on Earth. Returning to the underground base, Colonel Chu informed everyone about Zhao Yu's plan, which immediately sparked outrage. "This is too much. Scientists are crucial to us. Sending them over to the moon is too risky for humanity." "I disagree. Absolutely disagree." The crowd became agitated, making a ruckus for quite some time until gradually calming down. "What if we don't agree? What if they forcibly take them away? What's the point of their forkfulness? We Earth people are united. No one will betray us. But without scientists, how can our technology progress? How can we catch up with the aliens in a short period of time? According to your reasoning, do the aliens want to stop 11s from progressing with our scientific research? That's not right. According to the analysis made by the experts, the aliens should be pushing for the development of Earth's technology. Why would they us to not make progress? Perhaps they want to try to deceive the scientists into going to the moon and then advance their own technology, leaving us behind." Senator Zhou stood up and said, "Let's think about how to respond, 11. Chun Xiao was the first to offer a suggestion. Since they said it's recruitment, it ultimately depends on voluntary participation. If no scientists are willing, then good." Senator Zhou immediately ordered, "Notify all parties urgently and ensure that the scientists maintain a unified stance with Earth." Colonel Chu returned to the surface and asked knowingly, "May I ask what type of people your side plans to recruit and how many? Doctors, nurses, musicians, artists, writers?" Zhao Yu listed a long string of professions, leaving Colonel Chu stunned. They were all specialists in the arts and humanities subjects? This caught him off guard, and he became a little confused. Suppressing the uncase in his heart, he asked, "Mr. Zhao, may I ask what the purpose is for recruiting these people?" "Of course, it's to make the moon a bit livelier." "Oh, and please choose younger individuals if possible." "Just that?" Colonel Chu was perplexed. Wasn't the moon planning to recruit scientists? "Is there a problem?" Zhao Yu asked, noticing his slow reaction.
No.
Colonel Chu didn't dare to create complications and quickly agreed. Seeing his agreement, Zhao Yu nodded slightly, then 1 foot 11 inches leave it to you. I hope the list can be finalized within a month. Since the situation was not as they had expected, Colonel Chu also breathed a sigh of relief and started asking for further details. "Mr. Zhao, when these people go there, will they receive salaries? What about their living arrangements?" "Don't worry, everything will be in accordance with Earth's standards." With the matter settled, Zhao Yu left. Watching his departing figure, Colonel Chu felt mixed emotions and was puzzled about the purpose behind the aliens' actions. Upon returning underground, the senators quickly inquired about the situation. "Please clarify, is this a voluntary recruitment? Did Zhao Yu agree to it?" Seeing the nervousness on everyone's faces, Colonel Chu shook his head and said, "They didn't ask for scientists. He explained Zhao Yu's request for recruiting people who specialized in arts and humanities, which immediately shocked the whole room. They don't want scientists? They only want people who specialize in art and humanities. What are they going to do? Zhao Yu's action caught everyone off guard, leaving them perplexed and unsure of what to do next. It was like preparing to throw a punch, but ending up hitting cotton. The group pondered and contemplated, but they couldn't figure out the purpose of the moon aliens. Could it be that they simply want to make the moon livelier? That's not possible, one. Or maybe the aliens want to conduct experiments or research at close range. That's a possibility. No matter which possibility the think tank put forward, it made the senators feel uneasy. They couldn't understand why the moon side went through all the trouble of building such a huge city on the moon. Could it be some sort of conspiracy to destroy Earth? Unable to reach a consensus, they decided not to dwell on the ultimate purpose of the aliens and instead prepare to respond as if they were conducting some kind of experiment. Perfect. We can take this opportunity to send some people to the moon, undercover, and gather intelligence.